Hello artists, we're glad you're here. Last week you might remember, and Barnaby I think you might too, that we did a texture masterpiece where we crumpled up our paper and we gave it some crinkly bumpy texture, and we said to save this for next time. Well, we actually have part 2 coming today, and we actually split this into 3 parts instead of 2. So today is part 2. But since we're talking about texture, Barnaby, which I might add that you have some lovely texture to your fur here.
Oh, thank you, Miss Iderson. I like to call myself a very fluffy texture and very soft, I might add.
Yep, you are a very soft and furry fellow. Well, since we are still talking about texture, and actually in part 2 today, we're going to talk about implied texture, which means basically we're going to draw on the texture of what we're doing. But I thought since we're still in the topic of texture, I wanted to read one of my favorite texture books called Spiky, Slimy, and Smooth. And I know last week, the kids on Zoom and I, we did a texture hunt where the kids went around and searched their houses for different textures, and that was a lot of fun.
I love texture hunts. They're the best.
Yep, so that was a lot of fun. So now, before we start part 2 of our project, let's go ahead and read this book. I'm pretty excited.
All right, buckle up. Time for texture.
Spiky, Slimy, and Smooth by Jane Brockett. What is texture? Touch your nose. How does it feel? The way something feels is called texture. Let's look around to see what textures we can find. Furry slippers are soft and fluffy. They tickle your toes and keep your feet warm. What else is soft and fluffy? How about layers of soft, sweet cake and frosting? They feel light and spongy when you eat them. Yum. Jam is sticky and gooey. It's easy to spread on toast, but it stays on your fingers until you lick it off. Mmm. You can feel things with your feet too. Have you ever felt mud between your bare toes? It's gooey and very oozy. Old flower heads are dry and papery. Rub them between your fingers. They crumble into little flakes. Cookies sprinkled with sugar feel dry too. The sugar makes the ridges on top stand out. You can see them as well as feel them. Cactus plants are spiky and sharp. They aren't nice to touch. Pebbles and stones can be sharp and pointy too. It's much easier to walk on them in shoes than with bare feet. Candy wrappers are smooth and shiny. They make a rustling sound when you scrunch them up. A watermelon has a thick, smooth skin. It protects the juicy fruit inside. Look at all the different squash. Some are plain and some are smooth. Some are knobbly and warty, and some are curvy and lumpy. Oil is greasy and wet. It makes these tomatoes slippy and slidey. Raw eggs are wobbly and runny and slimy. They feel very funny. Just picked fruits and vegetables taste fresh and crisp. Apples are firm and crunchy. An apple makes a loud noise when you bite into it. Lettuce feels light and crinkly and easy to eat. Freshly fallen snow can be crisp and crunchy under your boots. But if you catch a snowflake on your tongue, it can feel light and cold. Things made from metal feel hard. When we hold them, they don't bend or change shape. Tiles are also hard. They are smooth and cool to touch, but the thin gaps between tiles feel gritty and rough. At home, we have soft, squishy textures to keep us warm. On winter days, it's nice to snuggle under woolly blankets and stitched quilts. What else is nice to touch? Apricots and peaches are fuzzy and dry. If you hold a butterfly, it might feel soft and dusty and very fluttery. Some things are not so nice to touch. These scrubbing brushes are bristly and scratchy. Bricks and stones are hard and rough. They might scrape your knuckles and knees if you try to climb this wall. Ooh, candies have lots of different textures. Some are stretchy and rubbery, some are smooth and melting, some are crackly and crunchy. Texture is all around us. Everything we touch has its own texture. Look and feel around you and see what textures you can find. What words would you use to describe them? The end. So friends, how about it? What textures can you see and feel?